Have you ever met a speaker who can't speak? Well, that was me. That was where I started. Hard to believe, right, Joyce? At 27 years old, I am a haircutting specialist at one of the top 3 hair salons in New York City. Monthly, our work can be found in every major fashion magazine, like Vogue, Cosmo. My slides aren't going. Okay, like Vogue, Elle, Cosmo, Mademoiselle, and the ones you see here, Elle, Harper's Bazaar. We even have famous people come into the salon, and we do all the fall collections for the designers like Perry Ellis and Ralph Lauren and Donna Karen. And sorry, hang on one second. Okay. And we have famous people come in, supermodels like Christy Brinkley and Brooke Shields and Ralph Lauren, and rock stars like Bob Seger and Don Henley. So now we are planning a big hair show for hairdressers from all over the country. And we have famous stylists coming from England and Scotland to join us on stage. This is a really big deal. One of the big Park Avenue South hotels in the middle of Manhattan. And in the weeks leading up to the show, I'm a wreck. I'm extremely nervous about what I'm going to say at the show. And I ask a couple of stylists I work with, what do I say? Well, they both tell me the same thing. You just talk about what you're doing while you're doing it. And they make it sound so easy. I tell myself the right words are going to just fall out of my mouth at the right time. The day of the show is here, and I am dressed for the occasion. I'm wearing a royal purple silk blouse, skinny black leather pants, black high-heeled boots, and my hair is perfect. And I find myself on stage next to the salon owner, Mark. There are several hundred of my peers in the audience. And it's my turn. Mark introduces me. But I am terrified and I panic. I mumble something and go silent. The people in the front rows call out, we can't hear, we can't hear. Mark immediately realizes what's going on. He dives to my side. He gently takes the microphone from me and says very graciously in his Australian accent, I'll speak for her. She has a soft voice. I am both mortified and grateful. Mortified because our salon is a global trendsetter and I just froze and royally bombed in front of my peers. But grateful because I know I would have done that haircut completely mute and not given the audience what they came for. That never has to happen to you. It's my passion to work with entrepreneurs to show up powerfully, speak up confidently, and get what they want for themselves in their life. Oh, and I have more than one story like that. So clearly, public speaking can be learned. I was a member of Toastmasters for over 11 years, and that's where Joyce and I met probably about 15 years ago. I wasn't in the 11 years all at once, but met her quite a long time ago. And I have finally earned a Distinguished Toastmaster Award. It's the highest award a person can achieve. I was a trainer in the professional beauty industry for 10 years. And for 16 years, I also worked for a personal growth and development company. And there I coached and trained thousands of people to fulfill on what matters most to them. I'm also a trained NLP practitioner. NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and it's a fancy way of saying learning the language of your mind and how you talk to yourself, which translates into what comes out of your mouth and how you communicate with others, the important part. And I'm also a current and active member of the National Speakers Association. So this is for you. If you think you don't know how to speak effectively to an audience or to a group and feel it would help your business to do so, this is for you if you have done some public speaking, but maybe you've just been winging it, but now you want to show up more professionally. This is for you if you want to share your expertise and experience, but you're not really sure how to focus in on your thoughts and on what's important. And this is for you if you know you have a message to get out to the world, but you're not sure where to start. If any of this speaks to you, you are in the right place. And I'm going to give you as much as I can today, and then I promise to show you how you can take it further. So I just ask you, please hold any questions till the end because I can't really see you anyway, just a couple of you on the side, and then I can answer some questions at the end. But today you're going to see what it takes behind the scenes for you to be confident and powerful in your speaking. So I'm going to talk about speaking power and the 3 secrets of public speaking, what you need to know before you ever say a word. And the theme of what I'm going to talk about is showing up for yourself, like how you show up for yourself, who are you for yourself, how you show up for others in relationship to them, and how you show up in your image or your appearance, the visual. And it's important because it all plays itself out one way or another when you find yourself getting in front of an audience. These 3 secrets are the foundation of public speaking. So you can get a lot of information about public speaking in many different places. But what we're going to talk about today really doesn't have a whole lot to do with presentation skills. So presentation skills meaning specifically what happens once you step in front of the audience. When people work more closely with me in my programs, we do train on that, but just that's not the focus today. Today, we're going to talk about what's going on before you ever get in front of an audience. So what I want to talk about today, and what I'm inviting you to try on for starters today, is the first secret is public speaking is an inside job. Who you are for yourself has everything to do with how you show up for your audience. So who are you for yourself? And what does that even mean? Well, here we're talking about your beliefs about yourself, your self-talk, and your self-image. It starts before you ever get in front of the room, because wherever you go, there you are. So have you ever thought about how you show up for yourself? And what does showing up even mean? And what does it have to do with public speaking? Well, let's first define showing up. The dictionary definition of show up is to be conspicuous or clearly visible. So here, talking about being conspicuous or clearly visible for ourselves means to be aware of what's going on in our own thoughts and feelings at any given time, particularly when we're in front of our audience, right? Here we're relating this to public speaking. But when we have limiting beliefs and self-talk that doesn't empower us, and what we say to ourselves about ourselves is not positive, it impacts how we are in front of our audience. So what do you say to yourself? What do you say to yourself that's keeping you from being a good speaker, from being the best you can? And why does this matter? Well, it matters because as an entrepreneur, you are your business and your business is you. By the way, this goes for, even if you work for another company, right? You, like in the eyes of the customer or the eyes of the public, you are the company and the company is you. Just think about any time you may have had a bad customer service experience. Isn't it all of a sudden all about how terrible it was with that company, not with that person, right? It's the same thing as an entrepreneur. Your business is you and you are your business. So who you are for yourself shows up in the presence of others, whether we like it or not. So when I had been in the beauty business for about 10 years, I wanted to be a trainer and give back some of the great training I had gotten. And I learned that Saks Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, that's actually a picture of the front of it, they hire trainers to go around the country and provide in-salon education. And they're part of a larger corporate salon chain called Regis Salons. So this is perfect. I have something to share. Here's where I can do it. It's perfect. And I'm confident I have the educational beauty background to do this sort of on-the-road training. And I'm certain things are going to move forward as soon as I'm in the salon. Then nothing. I start to doubt myself and I wonder if I really am capable of providing that kind of training. I question the manager. Jean, what do I need to do? She says, Donna, you need to get a resume. Well, this was a time before everyone and their cat had resumes. That's why I didn't have one. But I figure it out and I get myself a resume. I present it to Jean. She tells me, I'll make sure Gordon, the VP of education, I'll make sure he gets it. And from time to time, Gordon would come to our salon and I always pester him. Gordon, when can I start training in other salons? After all, that's why I moved over here. Well, finally, 6 months later, Gordon contacts me. He says, Donna, we're going to send you out on the road to Boston and Providence with the National Art Director, Ian, for 4 days. It's amazing, a dream come true. They're going to train me to do exactly what I want to do. Day one, I show up as confident and excited and ready to take my training to the next level. And we're in a mall salon with 25, 20-something fairly new female hairdressers. And Ian is handsome, charming, and British, complete with the accent. He charms them and entertains them all day. I am charmed and entertained too. Day two, same salon, but now the stylists have brought their friends and family to practice on, and I'm in my element. My confidence is restored. This type of one-to-one training is what I have been doing for the past 5 years, and I breeze through the day helping them with their haircuts. This is going very well, and I say to myself, I can do this. In the evening, when Ian drops me at the hotel, he says to me, Donna, you can open at the next salon tomorrow. I freak out to myself. But I don't know what that means. I don't know what to do. What do I do? What happens? How do I know? What happened to my training to do this? I thought this was a training trip. But I pretend to understand. And I just say, Okay. But who I am for myself now is incapable, stupid, and terrified, and I have no idea what to do or what is expected of me. And I thought this was a training trip. Back in the room, I babbled to myself, pretending to practice saying anything, something, in the mirror, talking to myself, with clothes, without. I'm willing to try anything. I've heard that can help. Doesn't. And I barely sleep that night. When Ian picks me up in the morning, I'm as white as a sheet and I have nothing to say. We get all the way to the salon when he says, I can open this morning and you can do a model this afternoon. I feel temporary relief. Maybe it will be okay. This means I'll do a demonstration haircut and talk about it while I'm doing it. That might sound a little familiar. We have the model, a small, chubby, older lady with short white hair that Ian had turned to kind of a beigey pink color earlier this morning. I silently start to cut her hair. I cannot think of what to say. I am certain I'm the biggest loser. There are no words coming out of my mouth. There are 10 hairdressers here today. They are older and more experienced than the last group, and they have notebooks in hand and ready to learn. Me? I cut hair silently. One of them eventually asks me a question, and I give a brief answer. So it goes for the rest of the haircut. More questions, more brief answers. I'm not connecting with them. I'm not showing up for them. I'm not even looking at them. It's painful for both me and them. Well, Ian had left the salon before I started, but that evening he never mentions what I've done, and I am certain the stylists have told him. The next and last day, we're at Saks in Boston for just 3 hours, and I figure out fast where I stand. Ian now treats me like his assistant. Wash hair, sweep up, hand him things. And upon my return to New York, no feedback is given ever. And I'm way too embarrassed to ask anyone about it. Well, and as you might imagine, I never get another invitation to go on the road again. And the first thing I did after that is I went out and started learning how to speak in front of an audience, and I joined Toastmasters. Just don't ask me why I didn't do that the first time this happened. So at this point, maybe you're thinking about things that don't work for you about public speaking, because public speaking is arguably the number one fear people have. You might be thinking, I can't do it. I don't know how to connect to my audience. I don't know what to say. I'm too nervous. Where do I start? What do I do with my hands? People ask that a lot. Well, what's predictable about your uncertainty and your discomfort is that nothing will change unless you do something about it. Just like nothing changed for me between the hair show and the road trip, because I did nothing about it. Well, you want clarity, confidence, and power in front of your audience. The secret to this secret is to stop fighting yourself and stop trying not to be something you're not, even including being nervous. You need to just let yourself be with any symptoms you might have. I actually still get nervous. I'd be concerned if I wasn't. If you get nervous, it's because it's important to you. And you'll never be able to truly be powerful in front of the room if you're thinking you should be some way that you're not, including being nervous. I love this quote, often credited to Oscar Wilde. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. So what do you imagine you could feel about yourself in front of an audience? How would you want to be? Confident? Connected? Calm? Present? Something else? Secret Ones boils down to being present and in the moment, which you can only do for yourself. And where being present starts is with noticing how you already are in any given moment. That's why it's an inside job. It's only then you can make a new choice of how to be in that moment. So remember, public speaking is an inside job. So let's go on to secret number 2. The second secret is all we really have is each other. So consider you are public speaking all the time. And guess what? That means you have to be great with people all the time, because people talk to each other. You know, people talk about you, right? Networking is simply connecting with people and building relationships. So the secret has to do with how you show up for others. And what I mean by that is how you occur for them. How do they experience you? This affects your relationships, which affects your ability to be an effective public speaker. Listening and being interested in others is your access to great relationships. So ask yourself, do people listen to you? Would they say you are a good listener? Are you generous and compassionate in your listening? Or are you just listening long enough until you can talk? I'll tell you a little secret about listening. If the other person is doing most of the talking and you are doing most of the listening, they will think you are a great conversationalist. When you're listening, are you genuinely interested in what the other person has to say? People know when we're not listening. If you don't listen, they won't respect you. They won't think you're credible. They won't promote you. They won't refer you to speak or refer you for anything else for that matter. And if you want to be invited to speak, you have to be great with people. I was invited to be a sponsor for a small event, and I was only getting to speak for 3 minutes. And the audience of this event was 40 women, most of them entrepreneurs. And the host does these events 4 times a year. She manages them herself, and she's very protective of them. She checks everybody out. And she checks them out on Facebook, and she interviews people that might, that knows her sponsors about them and finds out all about them because she wants to know who's getting in front of her guests. Fortunately for me, the people she talked to about me said good things. But you are kind of like the emperor with no clothes when you're a speaker, before, during, and after you speak. Maybe that just scared you a little bit, or maybe you were empowered by that. I actually want to scare you just a tiny bit, because I want you to realize when you're a speaker, people really notice everything about you, but that's actually what we're going for. When they notice you, they remember you. And until you get out there and speak, people may or may not remember you. But speaking makes you visible, it makes you memorable, and positions you as an authority and expert in your field, simply because you're in front of the room, because you're the one that had the nerve to get up there in front of the room and say what you have to say. I recently heard a story about a speaker that's very introverted, and he shows up on stage as very extroverted, but then when he leaves the stage again, he goes back to being very introverted again. I don't even know who this guy is, but his story has made its way to me because it's weird enough for people to share with others. Incongruency and inconsistency are disturbing for people, and uncertainty makes you less credible in the experience of others. And I'd like you to consider the quality of your life has a direct correlation to the quality of your relationships, which is directly correlated to the quality of your communication. And listening is communication. Most people know the principles of successful communication, but they don't always do what they know. Have you noticed? Well, so do they. They notice that about us. So here's just a moment of self-reflection for you. Just a few questions for you to ask yourself and be brutally honest to yourself about. Would people say that you are honest, trustworthy, and reliable? Would they say you're open-minded and communicative? Do you keep your word when you give it to others? Do people take you seriously and respect you? This was just for you to take a moment and observe something about yourself, which is the important part. And what all this has to do with public speaking is that the relationships matter. And it's largely from the relationships you have that you will get invited to speak. And I'm talking here about the kind of speaking you could do to promote your business, attract business, find leads. And it's going to come from the connections you have or new ones that you make. And the point of what we've talked about so far is that our relationship with ourselves shows up in our relationship with others. Remember, all we really have is each other. Okay, secret number 3. The third secret is image matters. And what does that mean when it comes to public speaking? Well, how you show up in your image. Well, how do you show up in your image, and why does that matter? An image consultant I know likes to say there's nothing casual about asking people for money. You've got to look like somebody they want to pay money to, and you've also got to look like you don't need the business. Some of you might find this conversation a little confronting and feel uncomfortable. I just invite you to try on what I'm about to say, at least until I'm done. Now, you may be comfortable with your own image and appearance, but isn't an appropriate professional image for any, for your audience or event? Some of you might even think this is superficial. Guess what? It is superficial, and it matters. A man named Albert Moravian did some research and discovered what people react to from others is not really what you would think. Loosely interpreted, what he discovered is 7% is the actual words we say. That's what people notice. Only 7% are the actual words. 38% is pitch, tone, rhythm, volume, and a whopping 55% is our appearance, our body language, our facial expressions, how we're dressed. So like it or not, people are forming opinions about you, and they're relating to those opinions about you as if they were true. And it's based on how you look, how you dress, how you carry yourself, what they see. Now, probably the most important aspect of personal appearance is it reveals how people feel about themselves. We all know self-confidence is critical to success, and well-groomed people look confident, even if they don't always feel it. So why are people checking each other's appearance out? Well, the answer for the purposes of this conversation is they just do. Right now, you're all assessing my appearance. Does not make you a bad person. It's just human nature. But think about it. When you look at somebody, your assessment of them is right there. You don't stop and ask yourself, should I have an opinion about this person's appearance? No, it's just right there. We do it, and so does everybody else. All of us make judgments about people based on appearance. And as uncomfortable as it may sound, this is what's going on with others when you're in front of the room. So why does this matter? Well, we live in a world of other people, and if we really want to have what we say we want to have for our business and our lives, we have to consider others and their perceptions of us. And the good news and the bad news is that it's not about us. You don't dress for yourself, you dress for your audience. Now, that of course can change depending on the profession, the audience, the event. That conversation is beyond what I'm going to talk about today, but we go deeper when people work more closely with me. Dressing for them, dressing for your audience honors them, and it helps them listen more attentively to your message. My husband, Forrest, tells a story of going to a presentation about real estate investing. The young guy presenting was talking about earning $10,000 a week with the program that he was promoting, and he was inviting people to sign up for a $20,000 program. But my husband could not get past his appearance. According to Forrest, the guy was wearing what appeared to be a cheap $100 polyester off-the-rack suit. And the young man's words about the kind of money it was possible to make were not congruent with that appearance. And Forrest's reaction was to not take this presenter seriously. There was just no credibility. Based on his appearance, the guy had not earned the right to talk about making that kind of money. Needless to say, Forrest didn't buy anything. So when you're in front of an audience, you want to stand up straight, chin up, shoulders back. Of course, these days we're sitting up straight, but hopefully that will end sometime soon. But you're in charge, and you want to be there as if you are, even if you don't feel like it, because none of this is about how you feel. It's all about how you show up, which is outside of us and in the experience of others. Because the truth is, if you're in front of others, you are in charge. That's how people relate to you. And the thing about all this, you just don't know. You don't know where people are coming from. You don't know what they're saying to themselves about how you show up for them. They just react, and you may never know why they didn't take you seriously or buy from you or connect with you. And it may have been something you could very easily become aware of and do something about. And when people work closer with me, we can go deeper on all this. But there's an old adage that says, to get where you're going, it helps to look like you're already there. There's a lot of competition out there, and you want to give yourself every advantage. And we covered a lot today, and I know it's not easy to make changes. We spoke of showing up, how you show up for yourself, and that public speaking is an inside job. We spoke of showing up for others, and that all we really have is each other, that relationships matter. And we spoke of image, and that image matters. And when I started, I said I'd tell you how you could find out more. I'm going to do that now. I have a passion for supporting entrepreneurs. I actually have a passion for helping people with their public speaking. And obviously, I'm an entrepreneur. And I've spent a lot of time around entrepreneurs in the last several years, and I've really seen them struggle and suffer unnecessarily when they go to speak publicly, either at a networking event or while giving talks to promote their business. And I've seen them not show up so powerfully or speak up as confidently as they can, as I know they can and who they are. I know they can do that. And I'd like to honor you for taking action and being here today. So I have a gift for you. It's called 7 Insider Secrets to Empower Your Public Speaking. So these are not the usual secrets. These secrets are what professionals know, but aren't commonly seen out there, and you're not going to find them on an ordinary list of tips. But I have seen them all at play during different talks I've been to, and I've noticed the reactions of the audience. And the point of all of them is to be sure that you keep your audience listening and that you avoid doing or saying anything that takes them away from hearing your message. Because again, as an entrepreneur, we're looking to be more visible. We're looking to get seen, heard, and known as an expert in our field, and we're looking to attract business. So in these secrets, you'll find out what to do to avoid, what to avoid doing, and what to do instead. So as an entrepreneur, right, you're speaking again to attract business, attract leads. Now, when you are the speaker, you have to create a good relationship with your audience. That's no matter what kind of speaker you are. I was at a seminar one time, and there were 150 people in the room. And a different speaker had just gotten up in front of the room, and she was saying something where she was dropping F-bombs. And then she stopped herself and she said, sometimes I do that. I drop F-bombs. Is that okay with you? She asked us. And then she just went on, assuming it was okay. A lady sitting next to me at the table quietly said to herself, no, it is not. She had stopped listening, and they were selling a very expensive coaching package. That lady didn't buy, and I never saw her again. You just don't know where people are coming from and what they are saying to themselves about you, how you show up for them. That speaker did not connect with the audience when she spoke like that. Now you might think, to yourself when you're speaking, is this behavior effective, and will it lead my audience or ideal client to accept the invitation or offer I'm going to make? And by the time you get to the end of a talk where you make that offer, and even if it's just one-to-one, by the time you get to the point in the conversation where you make that offer, you want to be sure your audience of one or many is still with you and that they have begun to see you as the answer. You want them to relate to you as their go-to person for what you do. So I am going to put a little link in the chat here. Actually, Joyce is going to. And I have a QR code here. We'll put a little link in the chat to get the secrets. Just click on the link, or you can take a picture of this QR code. And thank you so much for coming today. Remember, your work is important and people need you. Make sure you get the support you need. And I really enjoyed being with you. And thank you again, Joyce, for inviting me.
Well, thanks so much, Donna. We can all unmute and give her a round of applause. And so I'm still, maybe you could email me the link, or if they didn't do the QR code, because I don't know that I got it, or just put it right into the chat, Donna. So why don't, if you're done, I'm gonna take down the sharing. Okay, so now would be a time to, we have certainly plenty of time to ask some questions of Donna. If there's something in particular that you would like to know that she could, maybe just answer in general, or one of the rest of us could even, related to public speaking, just feel free to unmute and bring that up.
I love
there
that
it is.
job.
Thank you.
Notice your shoes. That's great, Ilan.
Right, and make sure, by the way, everybody save your chat, because it's got all the information from folks from the introductions going around. So, go ahead, Patrick. Yes.
Thank you, Donna. That was an excellent presentation. Would you say that there was a single thought, a single event, or a succession of those things maybe that allowed you to overcome your fear of public speaking, or was it just doing it more frequently?
It was kind of a combination. And I would say the one single thing, like where I noticed the biggest shift, was actually doing some breath work sessions and getting more connected to myself, because it's not out, even though our audience is out there, right? The inside job, like I was saying, is over here, right? Inside of us. And I wasn't really connected to myself. And so I, was terrified to connect to others. And so when I did some breath work sessions, that was really the big shift I noticed. But I also, I did public speaking classes, I did Toastmasters, I did spiritual growth work, I did personal growth work, but the breath work came first. It just happened to have shown up for me first.
Other questions for Donna? Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Great question. I guess I actually have a question. Here we are on Zoom, and it's a very different experience, as we all know, when you're speaking into this webcam and there's these people in the little, Brady Bunch, whatever you want to call it. Do you have any things you worked on as far as virtual presenting versus when you're actually live with people in a room face to face?
You're right. There are different things. Let's see. I'm going to put a little something in the chat here, hopefully making it make sense. Yes. One advantage is that you can use your notes, right? And so I'll tell you what I do. I'll explain this in a minute. Okay, so I like to format it, and I do this whether, I can use it if I'm using it completely, like if I use my notebook and music stand for a longer talk, I'll just have it all printed out like normal. But on Zoom, I still have this. So 14-point Arial, double space it, bullet points for each thing, and they're full sentences. I don't write little notes. I write my whole everything sentence out the way I would say it to a normal person, like, normally speak it. And then what I do is I take away the ribbon at the top of the Word document. I take away the ribbon, which is in the upper right corner. You have those options, and I make it very skinny, and I put it right under the camera. So then I can be like my own teleprompter, right? And I can just scroll along. Then the words show up right under the camera. And so that's the other secret. Your audience is the camera, which I really hate. I like being able to look around at people and connect with people and, see faces and reactions. And that's the only, disadvantage is the, camera is not going to do any of that for you. So
Yeah, it's hard to remember because I'm always wanting to look over to the right, with a band of people down the side, and then it's not terrible, but you should be looking, you're right, at the camera.
Yeah, and then I just recently got a second monitor so I could do the slides and I script at the same time, and like I can see it out of the corner of my eyes. Like I want to look, is it on the right slide right now? I can't, like I just want to I wanted to keep looking. I probably did glance over, but there is that temptation. Did that answer your question?
No, that's very helpful. And do you have one other thought? Have you trying to think the largest, probably a little over 100. I was thinking in my public speaking of people, do you have any general tips if you're in front of a large group like you were, it sounds like in that one, the very first story you told, in terms of gestures or anything else like that versus being in a more inner group? I don't like if we were all together like 10 or 20 people. Any quick thoughts on that?
Really good question. So in virtual, a couple things. You want to be really aware of your background because everyone can see it, right? So, anymore, I think it's getting easier to do the virtual backgrounds, but you just want to be careful. I would like test it to make sure. Do you know what lava lamps are? Some of you probably do know.
Oh, yeah.
And they make it kind of like a bobblehead. So you just got to be careful with your virtual backgrounds. If you're staying pretty still, it's okay. But if you move around, you're kind of going in and out. So you want to be very alert to your background, and is it representing you the way you want it to be you want to be represented. So that's one thing. Ladies makeup, you don't really need a whole lot, right? You don't need a whole lot, just enough to just look a little finished. Like now I just have on lipstick and mascara and a little under eye stuff. Like I don't have to do a whole makeup thing, and you don't either. If I'm in person, I'm going to, but like this, you can look perfectly polished without all that. And you're what you're wearing, you want it to be simple. You want it to be simple. That's kind of generally true. You want to be simple. I would recommend avoiding statement necklaces, right? In virtual or in Zoom, because you don't want your necklace making the statement. You want to make the statements yourself, right? So I would recommend drawing your attention in any way away from yourself, right? So that would be Zoom. And the other thing about virtual speaking is you have a frame, right? It only gets, there, now I'm gone. So if I do a big gesture, no one's going to see, you'll just see my biceps, right? You'll see my upper arms. So you need to keep an easy way to remember that I think is easy to remember is think when you're virtual, keeping your elbows in, because you're probably not going to make a gesture like that. You keep your elbows in, and that way your movements are within the frame, right? And the other thing about virtual is you don't want a lot of movement, right? Because it's two-dimensional, and that just probably made you a little dizzy, right? So you want to keep your movements in and in the frame, and simple and small. Now, in person, you got a whole different animal, right? In person, you have, depending on the size of your platform or stage, you have room to move around, and you should move around, not pace like a lion, but you're not confined, to standing in one place like a, guard outside the Buckingham Palace, right? That would just be weird. In your chair, you kind of want to sit there like that, but in person, you want to move, and you want to make and this is true either way, your movements should go with what you're saying. You're not moving just for the sake of moving. They should accent what you're saying, and otherwise just let your arms drop down, use your stage, look at people, make eye contact. Every few seconds change, or every thought change to a different person. I recommend looking at the people that look friendly. And if you can bring somebody with you, to be that person, do it, like no harm in bringing support with you. And I like to say, well, you don't want to let yourself get taken out, right? And this is part of managing your mind, right? But you don't want to get taken out by the look on somebody's face, right?
Yeah.
In virtual, you can kind of separate yourself from that. But when you're in person, they're right there. Maybe some guy has a grumpy look on his face, and maybe his breakfast burrito isn't agreeing with him, right? So you don't want to let that take you out. Or some lady's falling asleep in your face, but maybe she was up all night with a sick kid, right? She came to hear you speak, though. So you just want to be careful not to let things in the room take you out. And use your
That's great. Go ahead. Laura's got a question.
Yeah, Laura.
I have two, but the first one, how can you be certain that what you see on the screen in terms of your frame is what they see? Because I had a time when I was doing something, they're like, we can't see you. I'm like, well, and it was in what I was looking at, they could see me, but they.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't encountered that, but I would say just maybe get on early and get with someone and make sure ahead of time. Yeah, that's a concern. But yeah, you never know. Like, tech can do, my experience, anything can happen.
Yeah, and also, Laura, you can record yourself. Just set up your own private Zoom session, do your presentation or a part of it, and then play it back.
That was on Microsoft Teams, and it was somebody else running it, and I couldn't get onto it because the way it was set up, I don't have
Oh.
You didn't have access. Yeah, I'd say arrange with the host ahead of time, just to make sure of that. Yeah.
What was your other question before Ruth goes? Did you have a second question, Laura?
I do. It's kind of might not be totally relevant, so feel free to say no. What can you tell me? Where did you get your NLP training and more about that?
Oh my goodness, I got it in New York, like in the 90s. I don't even remember, the guy's name was David somebody. So there's a lot of people around that do that. So I'm sure if you did a little research, you could easily find somebody.
Okay, Ruth has a question.
Yes, Donna, I actually have a couple of questions. One is sort of like Laura's, maybe your breath work. I have a chronic cough. I've had it for years and years, and I've done everything under the sun to try and take care of it. So I'm always looking for new techniques for breath work. I've done a ton of.
So what happens when, I know a couple questions come to mind for you. What happens when you take a deep breath? Is that what tickles the cough?
Sometimes I notice I meditate a lot, and sometimes when I'm doing certain breath techniques in meditation, there it is. So yes, sometimes, but it's also triggered by changes in temperature. So if I walk outside in the cold, sometimes things that I've eaten. For a long time, I thought this is all about digestive, but no, that didn't get taken care of by just digestive issue. It's just, it's there, and it won't, it's been there for a long time.
Well, a couple thoughts. So the breath work, and I would say this is something you would just have to try. This particular breath work was called connected breathing. So it was breathing in and then out and then in again right away. So with no pausing. So I would say to do that to whatever extent you can. If going deep is going to be making a cough, then, see if you can do a more shallow version of it. I mean, that was just the version. They didn't have me go like super deep or anything. It was the kind of more normal, maybe a little deeper than normal, but it was connected. So it was just going
like a circular breath.
Yes.
Is that the same thing? Okay.
Yep. And then, like that. That was one thing. And then it can be tricky. So doing it with a practitioner, which I did, is they can notice when you hold your breath, or when you're, yes. You know what I mean? So the whole thing about that is to not do that. And with her, we had talked about my concerns ahead of time, so kind of drove them up and then breathe through them. So I would say if you have concerns really about anything, but we're talking about speaking here, you know, maybe write them down, get them present for yourself. Like if you get nervous or not sure what to say or whatever it is for you, maybe write them down and get aware of them first, and then sit and lie, quietly and, do some breathing for like maybe 15 minutes, like for a little while. It's not, and you want to, integrate those energies. And I'm also an energy healer. So you want to integrate those energies into your body. And that's where you get the power. And that's where it comes from. And as far as the tickle, I was going to say something about diet because I'm also a holistic nutritionist. And I personally have noticed I get that tickle from dairy. And I was wondering if you've ever tried an autoimmune protocol diet. That might be something to research.
Okay.
And did you have another question, Ruth?
Yes. Thank you so much. Those are really helpful. And I'm
Sure.
writing down. So I'm curious about your background. You were talking about backgrounds on Zoom. I'm curious about the background that you have now. Is that a virtual background? Do you really have, it's real?
Yeah, this is the, I don't know if you can tell, you probably can't tell, but right here is the wall and it's a corner. Like it's, I mean, like the corner of the room. Those things are on the wall. So now you look, you can probably see the ones here a little angled.
Okay.
And the one here is flat behind me.
Okay.
It's the real wall. And this is a crystal shoe.
It's really good to know because I was going to say there is no lava lamp effect there at all. Well, that's of course why.
It comes from the virtual backgrounds with no green screen.
Okay.
So another thing that I just learned of this week is that you can get these, I think you look for like the photography backdrop on Amazon, and they're pretty inexpensive, and you can, they come with a frame, or you can tape them on the wall and you can put that behind you, and it's real, right? So it's not going to do that womp womp thing.
Okay.
And they're pretty cheap. I was looking at them the other day because I want to set up a place to do some recording, and they were like $16. And with the background, with the frame to hold it up, it was like $62 for the frame and the thing.
Great.
So something
Great
to
tips.
explore. That was on Amazon.
That's been it's been a huge issue for me during the last year, is where to do my Zoom, what's in the background, what's the lighting like right
Oh
now.
yeah, that's a whole thing there.
In front of me.
Yeah. So another thing you can do
frustrating.
on Amazon, you can get a green screen that attaches to the back of your chair. Of course, you have to, I don't know how you have to measure to make sure it's going to fill the space. You can attach it to the back of your chair, or if you have room behind you to prop just a little stand, put it behind you, and then you can do a virtual background without the, the lava lamp effect.
So that would be with a green screen, right?
With the green screen. There's a green screen that you can attach to your chair or stand up behind you.
It's literally it's a thing.
Looks like a fan. Yeah, I've seen pictures. Like
Yeah, they're really taut. Like those things you put in your windshield in the car where you
like that.
Them and then they pop open and they're really taut. It's kind of like really taut and smooth. So if you're tempted to put any kind of like fabric, unless you can iron that thing like nobody's business and stretch it smooth, you don't do that because you'll see the crinkles. So those things, the green screen is made to pop out, be really, really taut.
I'm looking over at Patrick. He's probably the person I could work with on a one-to-one to get this. I thought green screen was something that you had on your computer. I didn't know.
No.
It's a literal thing.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thanks so much for these questions. Go ahead, Lori.
Yeah.
And this isn't a question, just to comment on what Ruth was just saying, and Donna too. I have 2 background stands and multiple different backgrounds, of which are not behind me right now. But there's everything from bookshelves to brick walls, and they are really cheap, and there's different sizes. And in addition to that, I finally got so tired of always being backlit that I bought one of those ring lights. And all of that stuff is really pretty inexpensive, and we're on Zoom so much that it makes a difference. And with those lights, they come on a little tripod. You can change the brightness of them. You can change the color temperature. So those things I think really help.
Yeah, the ring lights. And then you can also get lighting packages for under $100 with 3 different lights, and you put them, different places to make sure that you don't have, like, you can see I don't have that because you can see I have shadows. I have a window over here and, light overhead, and I've got shadows, but, with the lights, it takes all that away.
Any other questions or comments? I want to make sure to not cut those off. I'm going to stop the recording if I think like I'm not stopping the meeting. Do you want to stop cloud recording?